In the name of the one who is love, amen. Please be seated. Good morning. There will be a forthcoming book that I intend to write on the spirituality and sociological significance of Pokemon Go. However, I don't plan to make any comment on this morning, and I'm sorry if that's disappointing for some of you. The reading from Colossians today conjures memories of a mentor pastor who was in my life in my early years of college. And in his enlightened words at the time, he referred to little Jesus and big Jesus. Little Jesus was the one in whom I had a personal relationship and of whom I could claim a corner on truth. Little Jesus saw the world through exactly the same eyes that I saw the world, and my job was to help others see as I saw, all in the name of evangelism and conversion, so I could help people see my way of thinking. And I say this without looking down on this, because to this day, my life is somewhat reconciling this experience of a presence of God, the Spirit of Jesus with me in my tradition and background, with big Jesus, as this pastor talks about. He referred to big Jesus as the human figure and archetype of the prophet, teacher, and leader who was a window into the ground of reality called the Christ, that was always more expansive than my current eyes could see. And Christ is not the last name of Jesus, in the words of Richard Rohr. And H is not his middle name, I would add. My spiritual path has been one of continuously walking into new terrain with an openness both to learn new perspectives and to unlearn ideas that I needed to shed, and to open myself to the many ways that God's Spirit was at work through all kinds of people, places, cultures, races, languages, religions, all imperfect as they were, but nonetheless where grace was undeniably present time and again. And on this day, both looking forward and looking back, there's a couple truths that are clear to me. One is that life has never, ever unfolded as I have expected it. And at this point in time, I wish that I had an off switch for all of the fantasies and projections and how I imagine the future will unfold, and to just be more present in this moment, terrifying and beautiful as it is. And the second truth is that God, or love itself, is always at work in all of our imperfect circumstances, calling forth new life and integration. God, or love itself, is always at work in all of our imperfect circumstances, calling forth new life and integration. What looks like randomness and chaos is always infused with divine creative possibility. And I would add that God especially seems to work through loss, struggle, disorientation, and even devastation. Today, I ask myself, on today, which is my last Sunday at All Saints Church, how in the world did I end up in the pulpit here? And it was a whirlwind of circumstances, beginning with some conversations with our former rector, Ed Bacon, during a God-cidental bit of timing and window of opportunity, along with numerous interviews with the many committees that faithfully serve at All Saints Church. The many, many, many faithful committees that serve at All Saints Church. And then with fear and trembling and a hearty dose of joy, I went for it. And I wasn't sure if I was going to have the chops to hang in this place, but to feel your loving energy and your consistent support, I am truly humble and grateful and proud of these past 3 years. This community has been like a cocoon for me, both personally and professionally, in which I was able to find wings that I never knew I had. It is a place in which I learned what loss and renewal and death and resurrection feels like on the ground in real time, where we want that process to move along so much faster than it does in real life. My work as a priest here was so poignantly synergized and in alignment with my journey as a human being. To be immersed in the transformative thinking of Richard Rohr and the Conspire movement here at All Saints, along with the healing work of developing a more coherent narrative, as we've called it, where everything of our stories and backgrounds can be included and nothing needs to be cut off or left out. To learn so much about meditation and mindfulness practice, and to be engaged in deep multicultural work around race and other isms through our remarkable visions training amongst our staff, and so much more. And maybe an obvious statement, but I'll name it anyways. Life at All Saints has burned within me the continual need to engage matters of systemic injustice in our society where laws or an absence of laws benefits some but oppresses others. And I am uncomfortably grateful for this learning, because this work of engaging unjust parts of our system is always more difficult for those who benefit most from them, which I do as a young, white, straight, privileged male. I will always need to stand a bit further on my tippy toes, as an image I heard recently, to see more clearly, or to strain my eyes, or choose to engage when many of my brothers and sisters don't have that luxury to choose. On this, my last Sunday of All Saints, I'm grateful for the gift of learning and knowing how unfinished I am. And that's a really wonderful gift, to go forward into the future with a sense of there is so many roads yet to travel. And I don't know where they're going exactly, but it's going to be good and it's going to be wonderful. I have always been perplexed and stirred by the Apostle Paul's language of completion in the past tense. Last week we read Paul's words that we have become a new creation. Or today in one translation we hear that in writing to this community of Colossae, that they have come to fullness, or they have been made alive, or they have been forgiven, or that Christ has disarmed the unjust rulers and authorities and made a public example over them. This is such a sweeping account of encouragement to this beloved community, using language of completion. Yet today we're painfully aware of all that is unfinished, all that is hurting, broken, not whole yet. And hope is difficult to experience in our world today. That is as true a statement as we can make. Hope is difficult to experience. As we learn of more poignant acts of violence in the world, even this past week, another shooting in Munich where 9 lives were lost, and an explosion in Kabul taking the lives of 80. And these are just 2 incidents that we saw in the news. It's difficult to feel hope, and just to be honest about that together in this space with kindness and compassion and courage will give rise to the possibility of taking the next step forward and creating a more just and peaceful world. I was talking to a friend of mine recently who is an artist, and she shared with me that once she gets a vision of something that she needs to create, whether it's a painting or a drawing, a sculpture or a craft, she said she cannot move on to the next thing until the current piece of art gets finished. And I could identify with this unpleasantness of holding a creative inclination, whether it be through writing or music or a class, a teaching, or envisioning a new way of being spiritual community together. Yet her description helped me to ponder how God moves history forward depending on us responding to these visions, inclinations, and creative energies within us. Let me put this in terms of a question. Could it be that God and life moves forward into more wholeness and peace, depending on us to respond to the visions, inclinations and creative energies within us. That perhaps this deep persistence in us, which we read about in the gospel today, this persistence has a source, which is the artistry of shalom, birthing itself into existence. I heard a speaker recently, a theologian and philosopher named Jon Dephouse, who said something profound, I think. He said that we don't know the true essence of Christianity yet because it is not yet finished. We don't know the true essence of Christianity yet because it is not yet finished. The sacred story of Christianity has always been reappropriated, rediscovered, and experienced for each generation, and is now facing, perhaps more than ever, the same reconfiguring open future. So to conclude, in my estimation and experience and thinking, what is needed today in our culture in which the ancient story of Christianity and the church may have much to offer? Without elaborating extensively, I offer 4, which are perhaps old truths, yet ever new and waiting to be rediscovered. And there are certainly many more. The first one is this: for the sake of ourselves and the planet, in the way of St. Francis, we are invited to cultivate lives of simplicity in authentic communities of love, countering the narrative that fierce independence and consuming more stuff brings more security and happiness. An ancient, compelling idea, but not easy to live. What if we could rediscover the art of living by daily bread rather than accumulating as much as we possibly can in order to be happy and secure? Remembering the central truth that the figure around this narrative of Christianity is one who, poetically speaking, did not have a place to lay his head. 2, we are invited to practice fearless and searching self-examination as the only starting point from which we have any authority to talk about anyone else, where our first instinct will always be to project or to scapegoat onto someone else. Remembering the plank in our own eye will always go a long ways, to quote the words of Jesus. That's number 2. Number 3, in spiritual community, we are invited to hold questions patiently, especially those without easy answers. This may take months, may take years, may take a lifetime, but developing the capacity to find more rest in a greater amount of complexity, instead of shouting more loudly weather-worn answers that have passed their time. Remembering the journey and the fresh language we use makes all the difference. And number 4, finally, and this is the hardest, I think, especially now, and that is to develop the capacity to behold enemies, whoever that may be for you, through eyes of kindness and compassion, even when we passionately disagree. We can easily parrot Jesus' words to love our enemies until we actually have one. Yeah, that's true, right? And this teaching is perhaps needed now more than ever in such disjointed and disorienting times when enemies of all kinds seem to be abounding. So these are 4 things that I'm working on, probably for my lifetime, and I hope that these ideas may also resonate with you going forward. I am really excited about this new adventure that lies before me, heading west to be the lead minister at Thad's church in Santa Monica. This is a non-traditional, experimental, creative sort of community that's a really great fit for me, that brings together a lot of different parts of my journey, and I'm excited. My folks keep hoping that I'll move further east, but now I'm as far west as I can possibly go, unless I become a Navy chaplain, but you never know. And truly and sincerely from my heart, I am equally grateful for this past 3 years at All Saints, and really proud and honored. I truly go forth sealed and marked by this community of All Saints forever. So thank you, friends, and I hope that you will keep laughing and learning and hanging around children, because life is too serious and too precious not to. So grace and peace until next time.